Watkins, I have now finished the season as it stands so far on casual, and Valerie sure is a fun character for you to play. If you were to meet somebody and they said, "Just tell me about Valerie," what would you say?
I would say she's like a lot of people you probably already know. She's pretty relatable. When you meet her, if you were to meet her, you would maybe realize that something was a little off, like maybe she was a little sad. And it's probably because she's in the worst sort of chapter of her life, of her adult life at that point. And she's kind of juggling a new divorce and starting to date and coming to terms with her dysfunctional family, and also trying to figure out how to navigate this thing with an adult daughter, a daughter who's 16 years old, who is sort of an adult but still a kid, and trying to walk that line between being a friend, like a buddy to your 16-year-old, or being a parent.
Yeah, that relationship is very interesting. Mallory's very, I would say, very permissive with what her daughter is able to do and in this world.
Yeah, I think she's representative of a lot of people that we sort of know now. I mean, maybe because I live in Los Angeles, where there's a lot of freedom and a lot of respect and responsibility, and I mean, just a lot of trust put into their kids that they've done everything as parents they could to instill them with enough confidence and hopefully intelligence, and then that it's their job to go out in the world and use that for good.
Another thing I like about your character, and this goes back to the beginning of entertainment with movies, TV, plays, is she is a therapist, which I think is always a fun, I would think as an actor, that is one of the greatest things to play, because you're so reactive. You're so, that listening mode, I think is fun for a viewer to watch.
Oh, that's a great way to put it. I think that's true. In fact, I've said multiple times that if I was an actress, I would be really into being a therapist, because I'm obsessed with human behavior. And I like to watch how people respond in moments of stress or joy, or, all kinds of things, falling in love. I just love to watch attraction. Like, I just love to watch people in those moments. And I love to give advice. But it's true. I mean, I think that listening is a huge thing in observing. And for my character, I think it makes her more thoughtful before she reacts, but she's human. And that's what I love about this show, is that because she's human, she is going to have, she's flawed. So she's not always going to say and do the right thing, but at least she's a little more contemplative before doing things than I would be.
How did the role come to you?
I wish the role came to me, but I had to go get it. Well, I guess in some ways it came to me thanks to a wonderful casting director, John Papsadera. And he called me in. He cast me in A World, which was Lake Bell's film. And luckily I stayed on his roster. And I went in, and I was the very first person to ever read Xander Lehman's words out loud, which is usually the kiss of death, because there's about 5 million people that are going to go in and do it as well. So they're not going to hire the first person they see. But what I found out later is sometimes that can be a boost, because you say, oh, okay, that works. And then you just wait for the next person to make it work more. I luckily stayed in Jason Reitman's head throughout the entire process. And then in the end, I got to do it.
Yeah, being first, sometimes you set that standard where the casting director and the director, writer, whoever, everybody else that comes in, they're comparing to you.
Maybe. I mean, I guess if you went in there and you were right for it, I suppose that's what happens. For this, I remember being kind of bummed, because I felt like, this feels so in my wheelhouse, and because I'm the first person reading, I'm going to be very long forgotten about. So you know, I think there's a lot of things that if you're not totally right for it, you can be sort of quickly forgotten. But this was nice because even when I was learning it, even when I was looking at the lines and trying to get them into my head for the audition, what I wanted to say instinctually as me embodying this character was exactly what was written on the page. It was sort of like magic. It was a little scary. I would look down and see the actual line and be like, wait, that's what I was going to say.
Well, you mentioned Jason Reitman. I've loved so many of his films, especially. And what does he do that you've worked with a lot of different people? What's his magic? What does he do that others aren't doing?
You know what he's doing that a lot of people don't do is he is unwavering in his vision. And I think when he's taking this first foray into television, he could easily have been swayed by a lot of voices and saying, do this, do that, do this, do that. And what Jason does is he hears the musicality of what the show is in his head. And that's why, for example, I get to do it, because when he heard it, he was like, that's the instrument that I heard. And that's the rhythm of it. And she's got it. So I want to do that. And same with Tommy. She was like, he was like, Tommy is the percussion. Michaela's the instruments. She's all over the place. Tommy's the beat. And he just really stuck to that and fought for that. He also has this incredible gift, which I've seen in very, very few, probably directors, but I've seen before, but it's really rare and it's really, really special. He can talk about things on an emotional level. He can talk to actors about their character. He can talk about visually what he wants, and then he can also talk technically about what lens you're going to put on the camera, or how he wants to shoot her, how he sees it. I mean, just he's all about telling the story visually, emotionally, audibly, and just technically. It's pretty cool.
Well, you mentioned Tommy Dewey. I honestly wasn't aware of him before this show. As you're acting opposite him, and I think so many of the great scenes in the show are the two of you. What are those rhythms like? You have to be brother and sister, don't you?
I'm so happy to hear you say those are some of your favorites, because they're our favorites too. Tommy and I always just feel like whatever else we've been shooting, as soon as we look down and see like, oh, okay, up next is a scene with Tommy. Oh, great, I can relax. Because we just have each other. I don't know, we just have each other's back. It's like we just instantly adopted our roles on screen, off screen. And it's really amazing, because I also didn't know Tommy at all. I'd never met him before. And the first time I saw him, I was like, wait, this guy's so good looking. How are we related? But I mean, I'm not being self-deprecating. I'm just saying, oh, somebody said the funniest thing on Twitter. Oh my God, it made me laugh so hard. They said, how are they related? He's a smoke show and she dresses like a sister wife. It was things, I just instantly, as soon as we met, we were just joking around like crazy. It's like we have the same sense of humor and we just crack each other up, and we're always doing bits. And it was a really quick way. It was a fast track to get to be comfortable and disarmed and know each other really well. Because the next thing that always happens on set, after you're done joking around for a while, then you start sort of sharing personal stories, and then it just goes from there. So it's like we just got really close really fast, and we lived in it. I don't know, I guess because when you go to work every day and you embody these characters, it started to come through in our friendship.
I think in especially TV series, family relationships, I mean, they make or break right away, because you're supposed to be two people that have known each other obviously since you were little kids. And in this case, you didn't know each other at all until you started the project. So that's got to be difficult.
Yeah, I don't like, I feel like you have to hit the ground running in these shows. I don't, because I know it takes the audience a little time to get used to the people, but and I think this is important to Jason, is he just wanted the show to feel really lived in. It doesn't feel like a pilot, that it feels like we just dropped into these people's lives, like picked up the party line and started listening in. And it's really important to me with every character I ever play, is that they have to feel real in some way, even if they're super broad. They have to feel grounded enough that if you saw them in a supermarket, you wouldn't think they were acting, that they were taking on a character, you know.
Once you'd worked together a few weeks, did you notice the writers would pick up on some of your rhythms and sensibilities, especially the two of you?
That's a great question too. I don't know what came first, you know, the chicken or the egg, but it's true. I mean, I guess maybe because it always felt like a match, it always felt like a fit. Every single script we got was deeper and more layered. And by the time we got to episode 9, I was reading it and I just like picked up, put on my sneakers and went for a walk because I was so shocked by what happens. But not shocked like, oh, that seems out of character, just shocked like, I can't believe the writers just went there. They're really making us go deep. But in terms of our rhythms, you know, picking up on that, I guess so. I mean, I don't know. That'd be a great question for the writers. I should ask them that sometime.
I think most shows do. I mean, if you're not catching that kind of stuff along the way, because a TV series is its own deal. It's not like a movie, which is, you know, usually, you know, pre-written and you know, probably not much going to change, but a show has to evolve and change over time.
Yeah, it really does. And I think what I don't know, I'm going to say it. This show just feels magical to me. Normally I could say to you, oh, the writer started to bend to my sensibility. I don't know if that's true with this. I just think that it already was there. It just felt like a live wire the whole time, where it felt like there was a conversation, you know, happening, you know, non-verbally between the writers and the characters and the actors. It just felt like there was just a constant sort of energy that was flowing through, and I don't know where one picks up and one leaves off.
One of my favorite moments is just as a viewer when Frances Conroy shows up as your mother. I mean, talk about, I mean, that boosted the show into a whole other realm in my mind, because she's so good in everything she does. And we see, you know, based off her character, really how you and your brother came to be how you are.
I know, it's such genius casting. It really is. As soon as we heard she was cast, it could be nobody else. She's perfect.
And yet we've never seen her like this before. I haven't.
Oh, she's so restrained and yet sexy in this way. I mean, you could completely see her in her day, just and I know people who have parents like this and are a little effed up from it, and are still figuring that out every single day. And it's striking how much she was able to just, between how she is in her normal life and then step into that character, it's pretty wonderful. You know, she makes a very quick switch.
And Hulu, went and met with that whole staff a few weeks ago, and that's a fun office, first of all, the Hulu office. But I mean, they're just now getting into original programming. Were there any fears, trepidations at all, and working with a company that was kind of new to this too?
I think, yeah. I mean, I've sort of been lucky because I did Wet Hot at Netflix. I did Transparent and coming back for Amazon, and those both had great experiences. So I was optimistic at that, you know, at worst. And I was excited at best, because what I love is that they picked it up for 10, you know, right out of the gate. It wasn't this put it all out there and then sit around and wait for a long time to find out if it's gonna get picked up for a series and then wait to do the series. It's like the characters, the story, it was all so well thought through, because the writers, it wasn't just they were making a pilot and being like, I hope this goes, you know, they were telling the story of this family, and a story that could sustain for a long time. So I actually had more confidence, because there wasn't anything that my character said or did in that pilot episode that wasn't completely thought through. And And quite honestly, I think because it was Hulu and maybe because it was their first, go around, they didn't, borrow any of the playbook from other places, perhaps, where they have a tendency, a proclivity to doubt the vision of the creators and the directors. They were so supportive of it, and so it just felt like a big creative party.
Well, as I told them that day, the thing that impresses me most about their starting point, their initial starting point of all of their new stuff, is they're really going after creative people behind the scenes first, whether it's Jason Reitman or Jason Katims or Amy Poehler and Billy Eichner, or I guess they've got J.J. Abrams and Carlton Cuse coming up. I mean, just very, very smart people behind the scenes. That'll help you every time.
Yeah, exactly. They're not looking at the same numbers. They're not looking at the same demographics that where I've worked before. And this is so nice to have a second season, because that's never happened.
Tell me about that. Where if you can, I mean, anything. Just tell us, where do things? How do they take you off into a new season?
How do they take us? Sorry.
How will we launch into a new season?
Into the second season?
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
They haven't told you yet?
No, I don't want to know. I just, I mean, I'm curious. I have a couple ideas, but I know I've created a show. I know how these things change a lot. Until you have a script in your hand and you're going to shoot it, these things come and go 150 times. So I don't want to get attached to anything or married to any idea until it's go time.
And what will that be for go time? What kind of when do you expect to be shooting a second season?
First week of February.
Oh, so coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, the writers are very busy, very, very busy.
Well, another thing I told the Hulu folks is they were really doing a great job of campaigning. I'm sorry?
I was going to say, I know they're busy because they won't come out drinking with us anymore.
Well, they're doing a great job of campaigning, and we're an awards website. So I just want to ask you, you got Golden Globes, SAG Awards, Critics' Choice Awards, all coming up in the very near future. What would that mean for you and the show to get some of that kind of recognition?
Oh my God, I think it would mean the world. It would mean so much. It would. Who doesn't? Show me an actor that doesn't love validation, and I will show you I'll show you my cat. So
I don't think he cares much about your awards.
I call him the critic, but yeah, no, I mean it's that's the thing about this digital platform, right? It's because I'm sure press people are so tired of loving a show and then having it yanked from the airwaves a week later. It just feels like every time I watch something that's so beloved by the critics can so often not find its audience. And so this must be such a really awesome time for them to be able to love a show and then get to write about it, and that it's not going to disappear the following week. So, and for us, I like to do more fringy stuff anyway. I just like the more sort of offbeat stuff. And so to have that recognized and be able to celebrate that would be so fun. It would just be so fun.
Well, listen, I have a feeling we're going to see you on some of these red carpets coming up. I think the show is going to do well with these awards. And I've got to say, it was even better than I was hoping for when I sat down to watch it. I don't know what I was expecting, but I really, really enjoyed it.
Out of curiosity, what were you expecting?
I don't know anymore. There's thousands of shows on a given year, especially launches of new shows, and I think each platform, call them platforms now because it's not really a network, they all have sort of their own feel to them. When you're kind of watching a Showtime program, or you kind of have a feeling when you're watching an HBO program. And this was my first Hulu program, so I didn't know what to expect.
I know, and it's so different from Difficult People. I mean, it's got such a, I don't know if you can see me anymore, it's getting darker. It's so different from Difficult People, and I imagine it's going to be very different from Jason Katims or from the James Franco, Stephen King one. I mean, what they're doing is pretty interesting. But yeah, it's sort of exciting that I forget that because there's not a sort of a Hulu brand yet because it's the first sort of year launching. It's got to be interesting for you.
Well, as I told one of our other editors this morning, we were just chatting about this and me getting ready for the interview, and I just said, I know what I'm attracted to, whether it's film, TV, plays, whatever, and that's witty and smart, and that's what we get here.
Good. That makes me so happy. I love that. Those are my favorite things too.
Yeah, in any project, if it has that, I'm going to have at least some attraction to it, and this has it in spades.
Yeah, it's an exciting time in television. It really is.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for doing this show and especially this interview today.
Thank you. I so appreciate you taking the time too. I really do.